control the vertigo.
Welcome to Anthologic, the TV anthology podcast. I am your host, Mark. Anthologic is a podcast dedicated to exploring the good, the bad, and the odd of horror, science fiction, and the best of mystery suspense anthology shows and series on TV. Join me as we slip through the cracks of reality to approach the extremes of experience, where we can peruse the stories and art of a sinister fairground of strange and wonderful rides. And now we go on to the show that is the focus of this particular episode. Welcome to this episode of Anthologic. We're your host Mark, and today joined by Sam. Hi Sam.
Hey.
You did express an interest in covering this one a while back when I sort of started planning this podcast. So as I've said in the previous sort of episodes, though I have a strict regimen for every other episode, you know, Outer Limits, Twilight Zone, Night Gallery, I just roll a big dice.
Yeah.
On all the episodes, all the other series I've got. And Tales from the Crypt came up. And as I say, you were kind of interested in that. So, Tales from the Crypt. It was actually done by HBO, this one, cable. So it was a bit racier than the normal sort of network stuff. As you could probably tell from this episode, right?
Yeah. There's a whole section in a strip club, which they didn't shy away from showing everything.
No, they didn't. Now, this one ran from June the 10th, 1989, with this particular episode, right and through to July the 19th, 1996. So 7 years, just over 7 years this ran. Over 7 seasons, 93 episodes, based quite specifically on the 50s EC comic range, including Tales from the Crypt, but also The Haunt of Fear, The Vault of Horror, suspense stories, crime suspense stories, shock suspense stories, Two-Fisted Tales, and actually this is not a Tales from the Crypt, because Tales from the Crypt was actually called something different initially. It was called The Crypt of Terror, but they did rename it Tales from the Crypt on issue 20. This actually comes from before that. It comes from issue 17, was the original story. And I've read it. It's a 7-pager, and it's kind of very old-fashioned, but there are changes, but it's essentially the same story. An executioner starts taking things into his own hand. We're going to spoil this episode, by the way. So because it was on the cable, it had all sorts of graphic violence, profanity, sex, nudity. It was all there. Ironically, it went to syndication after like 80 or so episodes, but that meant it was on network telly, which meant it was a bit too strong for that, and they started cutting it. We haven't got the cut version, but they started cutting it. And also, one of the other weird little oddities about this show is, for the 7th and final series, it actually moved base from America to London for filming, which meant there was more British actors. Basically, I think they kind of exhausted the American pool of actors, so it kind of helped that. It wasn't for cost saving; it cost more apparently to do it in London, but they wanted to do have a change. Interesting one this, because it's got famous. It's famous mostly, this one, for its host, the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah, the Crypt Keeper,
which is
I've heard a lot about the Crypt Keeper.
He was a big phenomenon. In fact, so much so that this show had a kiddie spin-off called Tales from the Crypt Keeper that was shown on like Saturday morning cartoons. That was a series, and that in itself got to 39 episodes over 3 seasons. 20 minutes a piece, much like the original, right? But it was for kids. So we do see it starts straight off with the Crypt Keeper contemplating life by looking at an electric fly trap, doesn't he?
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. He was sort of saying, I feel sorry for the poor little maggots that they once were. Life is fleeting and all that. And he's got that goofy laugh. It's not a bad animatronic, actually.
No, it's really kind of creepy.
Yeah, I liked it. It was the whole series actually had music by Danny Elfman, but this one didn't. This one had music by Ry Cooder, of all people, and it's a weird kind of fairground music, almost with like chiming bells, written by Ry Cooder. Quite amazing. They did that. I was quite impressed, I have to say, with the sort of filmmaking. The TV. This felt like more like filmmaking and TV to me. What about you?
Yeah. There were bits that were definitely very made for TV stuff, but some of the
opening shots were very filmic. Yeah. Interestingly, directed by Walter Hill, a film director in his own right. He was famous for things like Long Riders, The Warriors, and Streets of Fire, one of our Hall of Famers, Streets of Fire, right? So Walter Hill directed this, and he also took part in the writing with a chap called Robert Renaud, based on the original story, which was by Stephen Dodd, I believe. So those two sort of reworked that story to be more modern, and it was dealing with electric chair guy, right? A guy that actually worked as a state executioner. Interesting that it breaks the fourth wall a fair bit, doesn't it? The actual main character, who's called Niles. When I first heard this, I thought he said Larry Talbot. I was like, what? Niles Talbot, played by William Sadler, who has been in all sorts of things. He's a sort of face you'd know. Who's telling us about a character called Charlie Ledbetter, who's going to die because he killed his own boss because he didn't get a raise or something. And we go through the whole electrocution killing the man, don't we, and all of that.
Yeah. It's pretty grim because
it is a grim
the amount
series.
of like joy this guy takes in killing people.
He really likes his work.
Yeah, he's like some people shy away from like looking at the person as they pull the switch. Me, I like to look him in the eyes.
He did look him in the eyes as well. Yes.
Yeah. He like sat face to face with him.
Yeah.
So.
And his mates are kind of not his mates. His work colleagues are kind of with him, and they're not so into it, are they, really? Into it a bit, I guess. But then we see he kind of gets laid off, doesn't he? They basically, the law, they stop state executions, and then they immediately lay him off. They don't try and give him other work at all. It's like, I could go back to my old job, and he's sort of saying, everyone knows what you did.
So it's like, you might rile up the prisoners. And it's like, they're in prison. I'm sure some of them are on death row. They're probably already kind of riled up.
Yeah, it is kind of weird. And he's been this state executioner for 12 years, so he's been doing it a long time. But he feels like he's on almost like on a mission from God, right? He hates the fact that these murderers are kind of getting off of the death sentence, but then he kind of becomes a vigilante, not just killing people that should have got the death sentence, but people that actually have been found innocent one way or another, and he's taken into his own hands.
This is, I think, the weakest bit of the episode, because he just goes around, and the two we actually see him do it to were both like almost unrepentant in their murder in this.
That's right.
He should have got like at least one false hit, really. Like where the person just was like in the wrong place in the wrong time and got accused of it. But
Funnily enough, in the comic strip version of this story, one of the ones he kills, though there's nothing in the story, we actually, we have their thought bubbles, right? It's a comic. Them saying, oh my God, I've just got to put that trial behind me. It wasn't me at all, and I'm just glad they came to the right decision. This is this guy thinking to himself. So we know he's innocent, but he still gets electrocuted, right? So there is a bit of that in the comic, but not in this. The first one is a biker guy who gets off on a technicality. They just let him go free because he's right. And now, I recognise this guy. I thought, I know that fella. And as soon as he said it, and he didn't say at first what he was, but he said he's a biker. And I thought, he's the biker who is in the beginning of Terminator 2, who stubs his cigar out on Arnie's chest.
Huh.
I recognised him. I thought, I know that fella, but that's him. His character name's Flood, and he gets electrocuted, doesn't he? I can't remember the details now. Is it? He just plugs him in, didn't he?
No, he's going to open like one of those big sort of rickety like elevators.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Pull open the door, so he just electrifies the metal.
So it could be a kind of accident, that one. But the second guy is a couple who have killed the man's wife for the money and got off with it, and they're in like a hot tub to go. Plenty of nudity in this bit, right? And he just electrocuted. I thought he was going to toss in an electric fire, because that seems like an obvious, what looks like an accident. But he's actually rigged this whole hot tub to electrocute them. And it's a pretty nasty scene, actually.
Yeah, it's not pleasant.
They're writhing around in all the bubbles. It all starts bubbling up. And the next one, we don't kind of find out too much about, other than it's a stripper. And we get his little nuggets of wisdom, this guy, straight to camera, isn't it?
Yeah.
About what he thinks of women. You know, he's saying things like, you should treat whores like queens and queens like whores. And it's like all that. Very, again, I was quite impressed how filmic it was, the way it was kind of... You know, the way the stock and just the way it was lit and done. But we get quite a lot of gratuitous sort of stripper shots. So it loads. Yeah. Goes on and on. Which made me laugh, because when I read about these episodes getting cut for mainstream telly, I was thinking, there's no way this episode could possibly cut to make it okay for mainstream telly.
And it's just the reason I was kind of on board with watching this show is a lot of like guys I watch on YouTube, they'll occasionally talk about watching it as kids. And I'm assuming they're talking about Tales from the Crypt Keeper.
Right, maybe.
The kiddie version.
I think sometimes it also gets mixed up with Tales from the Dark Side, so it could be that as well. Which is the same era.
No, it's mostly talking about the Crypt Keeper.
Oh, okay, well, in that case, they are definitely talking about this, yeah.
Well, it's this or the kiddie version, which is just Tales from the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah, which does have the Crypt Keeper. It's kind of a green animated thing. Well, it's all animated, actually. So we find he's just basically we don't find anything out about this stripper, don't we, other than he thinks she should have died. But then the coppers just find him, and then basically they reinstate the death penalty, and he goes to the chair, and we see his former colleagues electrocuting him, right? So that's the story. It was pretty punchy. I quite like this. Did you like this?
Yeah, it was pretty good. I feel it should have had the more Twilight Zone-y sort of twist, where he gets a couple of the innocents, or at the very end when he's begging for them to wait so that he can get his phone call. Have them like get electrocuted and then like play the phone call.
Phone call, yes, I kind of agree with that. But it was much more direct than that. Now, I believe a lot. You know, as I said, a lot of the stories came from their thing, so they had a whole pool of stories just to draw from. You know, and work out which is kind of cool. What's it? There was a few interesting techniques in this. He does talk directly to the audience several times, doesn't he? So breaking the fourth wall, which is fairly sophisticated filmmaking. In a way, I like the music too. I thought the music was kind of cool, especially the opening music. I thought it was kind of cool. I guess the big standout from this is the Crypt Keeper, really, who we get a bit of. Right? It's kind of fun, right?
and at the tail end, he's got himself in some sort of big electrocution rig, and he's just sort of doing it for fun. He's just messing about, just having a laugh.
Yeah, apparently that was quite common. Whatever the episode was about, the Crypt Keeper would do something relating to what the episode's about, which kind of sounds like fun. It reminds me of something else, but I cannot think what. There is definitely some other thing where someone hosts something and they kind of dress up in stuff.
Was it Freddy's Tales?
Could be.
Or whatever that was called.
Could be. I mean, there was a lot of these in the 80s.
He like messed about a bit. So.
Right, I think this is a high point actually in 80s Anthology. Having said that, I haven't seen them all, so I don't know for sure. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing a bit more. But I have to say, I was quite impressed with this. Apparently, it kind of fell off the cliff towards the end because almost every story had unlikable characters, because that's what the comics books did from the 50s. I have to say, the comic books from the 50s, and they actually credit the man that kind of drove EC Comics, William Gaines, in the opening credits of this, which is kind of nice. And that was kind of... EC Comics are kind of interesting because EC stands for Educational Comics.
Oh, boy.
Because I think the early versions...
So that's either...
Sorry, go on.
This is the 50s. It's either going to be like the most wholesome saccharine sort of thing, or the most like horrendously dark, depressing and dour sort of thing.
Yeah. The problem is the comic books at this time suffered the same sort of thing that video games have got recently, and before then, video nasties got before that. And stuff like that. If you keep going back, it goes back to comic books, which is like blaming society's ills on a medium, right? Essentially.
Yeah.
And comic books at that time in America suffered greatly. Essentially, horror comics got wiped out overnight because they banned the use of horror and terror and various other things within the titles. Never mind about the stories. And it kind of wiped out a whole set of horror comics. You just couldn't get horror comics.
So dumb.
William Games actually went on to do sort of stuff like Mad Magazine, which is kind of, I guess, good, because Mad Magazine was pretty good at the time. But, we lost a lot of horror comics. But
pretty neat.
They were kind of revived somewhat with this show, I reckon. I could see how interested and would come back with this kind of show. And
I don't doubt it.
A whole slew of filmmakers were involved with this series. Well, for example, we talked about Waterhill. Robert Zemeckis is involved. Richard Donner, who was involved in the Superman films. There was some high-profile people getting it. Joel Silver's
I saw
producer. Die Hard.
I saw. It may not be the right Tom Hanks, but I saw Tom Hanks in
he did a celebrity director. Arnold Schwarzenegger directed one. Michael J. Fox directed one. So they had a lot of... It was like one of the things... I think it's been likened to people wanting to be on The Muppet Show or a guest on The Simpsons or Family Guy. Is that kind of vibe? Famous people wanting to be involved with the show, and it was really because of the Crypt Keeper. The Crypt Keeper was a big deal back in the day. It was like celebrity phenomenon. I'm trying to think of something. There's been similar ones, isn't there, with like puppets? I'm trying to think. I'm sure there's been recent ones.
Basil Brush.
I was going to say Roland Rat, but that's Basil Brush, I guess, for us in the UK. But there's other. I mean, the Muppets generally, I guess, right? That kind of deal. It's a good one. This I rather enjoyed this. I'm thinking that I might, if ever I finish, I'm sure I will, an Outer Limits, all of the Outer Limits, or all of the Night Gallery, I might actually slot in Tales from the Crypt on a more regular, frequent cycle. But we'll see, right? We'll see. But I did very much enjoy this one. High recommend from me, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same from me.
Yeah, anything else to say?
I think I can think of. I think we're done. So.
Quite an impressive little episode. There's 25 minutes in, out, bosh, surprisingly adult as well. Okay then, so bye from me.
Bye.
And until next time, is anybody out there?
We now return control of your television set to you until next week at this same time, when the control voice will take you to...